Hey everybody, another update on these parts here. I did some cleaning on them today, so I'll kind of walk you through what I did really quickly and then kind of show you the outcome. These bells were extremely stained, a lot of corrosion, so they didn't clean up 100% perfect. I didn't expect them to, just from looking at them before I cleaned them. I could tell there was going to be a lot of staining and corrosion that I wouldn't be able to get out. But everything is clean to the touch now, and so yeah, we'll just kind of show you guys here. So start off with the 5. Like I said, this one's going to get a new back cap since it had a 90s back cap. It is an 80s bell. I don't know why they replaced the back cap on it with a busted one, but maybe my guess is it wasn't busted before. I did get that bolt out, and you can see all the bolt holes are tapped. Super nice and clean, shiny, ready for new bolts. So that'll go together nicely. You can see there's still quite a bit of staining and corrosion in the 5 bell. Some of that just won't come out with normal cleaning, and I'm not gonna blast this with any media blaster or anything like that. My main goal was to get it clean to the touch, and then address the nozzle ring and outer ring so that way the diaphragms have a good seat. You can see I was able to get the nozzle ring really good and clean. Took a lot of scrubbing on all of these nozzles. They were all extremely stained and extremely corroded in some cases. So it took a lot of scrubbing to get those clean, but they are nice and clean. A little bit of stuff I couldn't get out, but nothing too crazy. They're really smooth to the touch. Outer rings came out really good. The back cap surface didn't come out too bad. Some staining I couldn't get out there, but everything's really clean and smooth to the touch. You can see a lot of the corrosion build up in there that would not scrub out. That stuff is on there for the long haul. That stuff does not scrub out or anything. It probably would come out if I media blasted this, but I don't do that, so she's as clean as I need her to be. Basically all I needed was just the nozzle ring and the outer ring, and then all the internals to be clean to the touch. Make sure there's no foreign material in there. And you can see we actually did find some paint on the 5 bell underneath all the black. What I found was all that, these, if you look at the first video of these, they're extremely black and dark. That was all soot from exhaust. So that cleaning these was quite messy. My hands were completely black with the soot and all that. And then we exposed all the different paints that some of these bells have. It's got some of them you can see a little bit better than others. I'll show you, especially on the 3 bell. But these would have had the that kind of tan pinkish primer that CSX used, and then it had gray on top of that, then black on top of that, and then they sprayed the blue directly on top of the black, and the blue didn't really hang on to the black very well in some areas. You can see we got the throat all cleaned out. The last view that you guys saw this, it was completely black, very dirty, a lot of foreign material hanging on to the paint and all that, and so all that's been scrubbed out. Everything is clean to the touch all the way down. Underneath, clean the foot up as much as possible. A lot of staining on there, that was to be expected. Even the some areas of the metal didn't have any staining, and some other areas do. The face of the power chamber has a lot of staining, a lot of corrosion damage. That's okay though, I'm not too worried about that. My main goal was to just get them clean to the touch, and then get the nozzle rings to where they needed to be, so that way these bells actually sound good. Won't have to deal with any fouling. You can see I cleaned out that vent hole right there. On most of these, that hole was completely clogged. And then also cleaned the inlet. What I do for that is I just use lacquer thinner and Q-tips, and I just soak the Q-tips in the lacquer thinner, run them down there, spin them around a few times, try and get all that stuff out there. Some of these bells took quite a few Q-tips before they finally were coming out completely cleaned. And I'll see if I can show you. So there you can see the inlet down in there. It's pretty clean. Not too much staining in there, which is really impressive. I have some bells from the 80s that have very stained inlets, so even though they are clean, they look like they're dirty. Same with this. This looks like it's dirty, but honestly it's actually really clean. So this will be a really nice bell. Like it says, raised circle. Whatever paint stayed on there is what's on there right now. Not too worried about stripping it at this time. I got some other paint stripping projects that I have to address before I'm worried about this. So there's the 5 bell. Doesn't look the greatest, but if you remember what it looked in the last video, it's 100 times better, and then it's actually a usable piece now. So that's good. We'll go over to the 1. The 1 actually cleaned up probably the best out of any of them. The nozzle ring didn't take too much to get cleaned. The bore surface has a little bit of staining that I couldn't get out, but overall it's pretty clean. The outer ring got really nice and clean. The back cap surface cleaned up pretty decent on this one. Once again, just some more staining and pitting, or not pitting, corrosion. Down in the power chamber there, some of that stuff just wouldn't come out no matter how long I scrubbed on it. So it's in there. I'm not too worried about it. But overall, pretty clean. Everything, once again, everything in here, that doesn't scrape off. It's clean to the touch. And then we also cleaned the inlet on this as well. Get there. We had it. Yeah, you guys can see it's pretty clean down in there. And the overall bell itself, pretty much the same as the 5. Found a lot of blue paint still on it. After all that, even down in the throat, there's a little bit, not too much. And then we got that. There was that bee's nest down in there. That was a complete pain in the butt, because that thing was really on there, and it was hard as a rock. And it was down far enough to where it was really hard to get from the front end of the bell, and it was still in far enough to where I couldn't get it from the back of the bell. So I had a really hard time getting that out of there, but that cleaned up really good once I got it unstuck and all the pieces that broke off of it out of there. But yeah, still quite a bit of blue on these. There's more blue on these bells than I first expected, just because of how much was covered in soot. Most of that was all soot that you guys saw, soot and dirt. So they were making quite a decent mess when I was cleaning them up. And I used abrasive stuff on this. I wasn't too worried about trying to save the paint. Like I said, I'm gonna end up stripping these anyway, and we'll repaint it in a matching paint for CSX, so not too worried about it being dull in some areas and that, because I mean overall the paint isn't really the best to begin with, especially on the bottom of this one. There's a lot of it that's just completely gone from over the years. A lot of black is showing through where the blue didn't stick very good to the black. They didn't do any primer on that, so not too sure what the black would have been. I'm guessing the horn was gray at some point in its life, and then they, for whatever reason, it got painted black. And then after it was black is when it went into the shop, and after CSX did their work to it in the shop, they painted it in their blue. And then the back cap for the one, you can see where the tag was, so that's how you could tell that they shopped it before painting it. They shopped it when it was black and then painted it afterwards. And you can see the gray underneath there. The back cap's cleaned up pretty decent. You know, these were the same color as the rest of everything. They were kind of black just in general. We got some blue through there. Every single vent hole on these back caps was completely clogged, so I unclogged them, cleaned the holes out really well, cleaned the big vent holes out really well. And then you guys didn't get a chance to see the undersides of these, but they basically looked just like the insides of the bell. And so with a lot of scrubbing, I was able to get them actually pretty nice. There is some staining there that I couldn't get out no matter how much I scrubbed on it, but overall I was able to get the diaphragm surface cleanup. That was the biggie for me, just kind of like with the cleaning up the nozzle ring and that. This surface is another very important surface that I like to get 100% clean if possible. Some staining on the wall, not too bad though. Everything is really smooth to the touch, cleaned up really well. The inside of the bubble cleaned up pretty decent, just a little bit of staining in there. And then the actual perimeter of the back cap cleaned up pretty decent, just a little bit of staining here and there. But overall this is 100 times better than what it was. And I'll actually show you guys. I didn't clean up the broken back cap off of the 5 since we're replacing it anyway, so I didn't bother cleaning it. So I'll show you guys if I can find it. So that's basically how those other 2 back caps looked, only the that inner area there was a lot blacker. This one, you can see it was completely sealed up. Those vent holes actually started to build these little plateaus of corrosion, and they were held up against the diaphragm, the rear diaphragm. And that's basically what I had to deal with. This one is actually a little bit cleaner than the 2 that I dealt with, because this was a later replaced back cap. Those other 2 hadn't been taken off at all, so they were a lot worse off than this. So that kind of gives you guys a scope of just the amount of scrubbing that I had to do to get those other ones cleaned up. So come back over here. So yeah, these had a lot of staining, a lot of not just this black staining, but they had a lot of like kind of rust staining in this area. This whole area was as black as that, and then this outer perimeter of the back cap was completely stained, real dark like that. So it took a lot of effort into cleaning those. So I'm really happy with how those came out. I wanted these bells to keep their original back caps. I didn't want to swap back caps on these guys, because I do have cleaned up wide font back caps, but if I can keep original parts together, I try to do that. So, and then clean the foot up as much as I could. A lot of staining on that, of course. The one right there. So yeah, there's the one bell. And then while we're at it, set the back cap back there. I did get the tag cleaned up, and now we can see that that's a 6. I was thinking it was a 6, but I couldn't really tell, because you can see there's corrosion damage right around that 6 and 0, so it was really rough looking. Plus, with the tag being damn near black, you know, before cleaning, everything was pretty much black. So then we got we're able to see the blue, and then I took a panel lining pen and colored in all the letters and the numbers, so that way we could read it a lot better. So I was talking to a friend of mine about what some of this meant, and I'm guessing they when they did this, they actually put when their shops rebuilt these horns, they actually put a warranty on it, and that's what the WAR is there for, the warranty. And it's a 5-year warranty because the stamp on the manifold was from 95, and then the date on the tag is 00, so that's 2000. So that's a 5-year warranty that they put on that CSX themselves put on their own horn. And it definitely never saw maintenance after 1995, just from all the corrosion and how dirty everything was. You could tell it hadn't been ever opened up since they put this tag on. But you guys can see right where the tag went. Try and line it up a little bit there. So that's pretty cool. So that'll look nice once it gets all back together. And then someday when we repaint this, I'm gonna clean out all the letters and numbers, paint it, and then we'll re-panel line it like that again, so that way everything can be clearly read. So, and then we cleaned up the back of the tag pretty good. You can see the impressions from when they stamped it. The back of this was extremely dirty and had some corrosion on it. Still has a little bit of corrosion at the top, but we got that pretty clean. Not like it really matters because you're not going to see it anyway, but might as well take the time to clean up everything so that way everything's good. Kind of cleaned up some of the outer edges on it and that, so that'll be a good piece that we can put back on that. So that's what's going on there. And then the three cleaned up pretty good. Like I said, still some staining in there, a little bit of corrosion here and there, nothing too bad. Got the let's focus here. Come on, there we go. Got the nozzle ring cleaned up pretty decent. A little bit of pitting here and there in the nozzle ring, nothing too bad, nothing that's going to affect the sound. Now that it's nice and clean, a lot of scrubbing went on there. Power chamber, a little bit of corrosion in there. Actually pretty shiny in some spots, not too bad. The platform for the back cap cleaned up pretty decent. A little bit of staining here and there, nothing too serious. This one, that inlet was completely plugged, or the vent hole was completely plugged, so we cleaned that up really good. And you can see all the bolt holes are nice and clean from when we tapped them. Those always look pretty good after you wash it out. So now I can put bolts in there and I don't have to worry about them getting stuck. And then you can see the inlet on this one's super nice, so she cleaned out really nice. Got quite a few Q-tips to get that one clean. A lot of crap in there. And then was able to take off some of the paint and found the it is a raised circle bell. I knew this bell was an 80s bell. I just didn't really understand what was going on with the raised circle, just because it was really covered under a lot of paint and super messy. But we did end up finding it, and it is raised. It's not as raised as other circles. It's a little bit thinner casting, but it is 100% raised circle. And then another thing that I found is the those older grinding marks on there. Those are, you see a lot of those on 80s bells, a little bit older 80s bells as well. So 100% 80s bell. That was something that I was a little trying to figure out, because I figured it was an 80s bell, but I wasn't 100% sure till I actually found the raised circle. And then once I cleaned it up, then I saw these older style grinding marks on it. So she is 100% 80s 3 bell. Cleaned up just like the other ones. A lot of missing paint on the bottom. Got a lot of blue on this one still, even down inside there. All the other colors on here. Let's see. kind of where I stripped some of the paint back here. If it'll show, I don't know, it's kind of bright. There's some of that kind of pink tan primer that CSX used, and then the gray on top of that, and then the black on top of that, and then finally the blue on top of that. So this thing had quite a few layers of paint. Pretty interesting. So yeah, she cleaned up really nice. And then the back cap, same deal, completely black on the outside, just a little bit of blue here and there. And then so we cleaned that up pretty good, got a lot of blue back. And then the inside of the back cap cleaned up really nice. You can see a little bit more corrosion on the face right here. I was able to get quite a bit of the corrosion off of the diaphragm surface there. The wall has some staining that I couldn't get out, but she's clean, real smooth to the touch. The outer perimeter of the back cap cleaned up really nice on this one. Nice and shiny when you move it around like that, so that's a good part once again. And then you can see the wide font a little bit better. Some of that paint came off. It almost looked like somebody had cut an X in the paint for whatever reason. So I kind of chipped some of that away because the wide font was barely legible through all these layers of paint. This paint's super thick too. You can really feel the change from this smooth metal to where the actual paint is. There's quite a few layers there. And then also with the that primer on there. And then this one had a lot of thick gray primer, or if that was just their gray paint that they had on this one. I have no clue what this horn came off of or why it had a 3-bell. I'm guessing it was probably a K5LA hybrid since it had a 3-bell, because this 3-bell has every paint color that these other bells have. So it's original to the horn. I just really wish I would have had the 4-bell to see if it was a 4 or 4A, because CSX isn't really known for running K5Ls. So my guess is that this was a K5LA hybrid with a 3 in place of the 3A for whatever reason. And even on the manifold, we cleaned up the manifold. Everything's clean to the touch on it. Cleaned out the airway on the inside. You guys can see the bolt holes are nice and shiny where we tapped those, nice and clean. Ran bolts down in there, those go in nice and smooth. Cleaned up the date a little bit, so now we can actually see the numbers really clearly. 5/2/95, May 2nd, 1995. And then on the bottom here, you can see we cleaned this surface up really well. A lot of staining here that's not going to come out. And then the pipe threading in there cleaned up pretty good. Nice and shiny in there. So now when I hook my utensils up to this, they turn in really nice. And then I don't know how well this is going to show up. You guys can see it's pretty clean in there. There was a lot of buildup of junk in there. Did a lot of cleaning on that airway in there. So, and then this as well kind of has all the original paint colors on it. It's got the that kind of pinkish tan primer, which is a little bit darker on the manifold. And then it's got the black. Some spots you can see the gray on it in certain areas, and then the black and then the blue are seen on there as well. The this side of it, the lettering is super crisp. Beautiful casting right there. You rarely ever see the part number casted that cleanly nowadays. And then it is an 80s manifold, so it's got some of the casting is really seen here. It's got a pretty decent raised circle right there. You can kind of see one right there, and then there's a really faint one right there. There's even one over here on this end right there, and then the other one, you can't really see it's there, but the paint kind of hides it. So it's 100% 80s manifold. That's just the stamp of the service date for this horn. So we cleaned it up. There's corrosion in all the usual spots where water got trapped and sat forever. But other than that, we really tried to clean these platforms up as good as possible. The end ones have quite a bit of corrosion on them, a little bit of paint underneath there. So, but everything's clean to the touch internally. It's really nice and clean. There's staining on the inside, of course, but it is clean all the way through, so that way when I go to actually blow this horn, nothing will break free. Any material that would have been able to break free has been scraped out. I used a kind of a large size pipe cleaner looking brush that I have and ran it down through there. I snaked it out with heavy duty paper towels a few times to get any leftover mess out. So that's all cleaned and ready to go together. So yeah, I had a pretty busy day today, guys, just trying to get this stuff done. See what kind of horn we're gonna make. I'm gonna see about, I might just do a K5L out of this. But if I can, I'll do a K5LA hybrid maybe. But we'll see. I'm probably just gonna stick with the K5L for now, and then go from there. Maybe someday when I find an 80s 4A, we'll stick that on there and turn it into a K5LA hybrid. But so hopefully you guys enjoyed the progress there. A lot of work today. My fingers are killing me from all the scrubbing that went on. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy the updates on this, and then we'll just kind of see where things go from here, what I end up building this horn as. But now all the parts are cleaned up good enough to be put back together, and everything should sound pretty good. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the update. Till next time, take care.